Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mad Scientist Brewing Beer Education Series. Today's episode, we're going to finish off March with another Irish beer. In this case, we are looking at Irish Extra Stout. Most people are very familiar, I'm sure, with regular Guinness Draft, which is an Irish Stout. This is kind of a stepped-up version of that, at least in the US. So first of all, cheers. I often find myself usually reaching for this over Guinness if I find it in bottles, just because it has a bit more complexity to the flavor, and it's a bit stronger too than what we have in Guinness Draft that you would buy here in the States. So let's start off with taking a look at the vitals for this beer. All right, for ABV, we're looking at 5.0 to 6.5% for style. I should note that this can vary a little bit from country to country too, so even the Guinness is not exactly to this style. When I was over in Ireland last year, I went to the store to get some Guinness Extra Stout, and I discovered that it was actually the same ABV as the regular Guinness Draft, whereas here in the States it's closer to 5.4, I believe, or 5.5%. So it was interesting to see that it was about a 1 ABV percent lower over in Ireland than here. For an original gravity, we're looking at 1.052 to 1.062. That's 12.9 to 15.2 degrees Plato. Final gravity, we're looking at 1.010 to 1.014, or 2.6 to 3.6 degrees Plato. This is a fairly high, mid-range IBU beer, all things considered. It's 35 to 50, but oftentimes you wouldn't really notice that. So it's got a pronounced bitterness. And for SRM, it's 30 to 40, which puts it in a range of brown to black, but I don't think I've ever seen one that's not just straight jet black. All right, taking a look at sensory notes here. Appearance, like I just mentioned, it is usually pretty much jet black, although if you catch it, the highlights of it can be somewhat brown or even ruby. It is pretty opaque as well, and it has a thick and creamy, persistent tan head. I've had mine here for a little bit, so it's kind of worked its way down at this point. But if you've ever had Guinness, the head, it's about the same color. For aroma, we're looking at moderate to moderately high coffee, and also a bit of dark chocolate, cocoa, biscuit, vanilla, and roasty grain as secondary notes. And you might get some medium-low fruity ester aroma in there, given that this uses similar style British yeast. Hop aroma, you really have low to none at all. If you do have any, it's going to be lightly earthy or spicy, but typically it's absent altogether. This beer is very malt and roast balanced, and that dominates the aroma. Flavor-wise, it's similar to the aroma. You've got dark roasted grain or malt flavor, and medium to medium high bitterness from that roasted grain. The finish is fairly dry and coffee-like, and it can be moderately balanced with caramel or malty sweetness as well. Typically, it's got a roasted coffee-like flavor, often with dark chocolate character. You might have a background of biscuit or mocha in there that's often present and adds some complexity to the flavor. For mouthfeel, you've got a medium full to full bodied beer, somewhat creamy in character. It's moderately carbonated and very smooth. There might be a little bit of astringency from using that roasted grain as well, and a somewhat slight warming character, given that the ABV can be a bit elevated here. All right, the history of the style, it's pretty much in line with that of regular Irish Stout, but this is usually a stronger bottled product version of Irish Stout. Originally, that did evolve from London porters. Guinness originally was brewed as a strong porter, but then eventually the style of Irish Stout kind of segregated out on its own, and that became the stout style. And then this Extra Stout and the associated foreign Extra Stout just kind of grew off of that original Irish Stout style. If you were going to compare them, it's about midway between an Irish Stout and foreign Extra Stout in terms of strength and flavor intensity. It's got more body, richness, and complexity than the Irish Stout, and also it's darker in color than your English porters are going to be. If you're looking for some commercial examples, the probably the easiest one to find is Guinness Extra Stout. There's also O'Hara Leon Folane, Porterhouse Quadruple X, and Sheaf Stout. I've not seen any of those here in the States, but if you have them in your area, give them a try as well. I'll keep an eye out as well. Uh, yeah, so this is a nice one to just slowly sip on as well. It's not too overwhelming. Um, people think that Guinness, as the regular Guinness draft, which is the standard strength Irish Stout, is very full and heavy, and oh, it must be very high alcohol, but it's actually quite low. This is probably more in line with what people would expect it to be, except that really, I mean, the flavor and complexity of it to me is much better. Not to knock Guinness, I love Guinness Draft quite a lot, but I would say this is the one that I would reach to if I was going to just find a bottle of it. I've not seen it on draft. Typically, Guinness Draft is the one that you'll find on draft. But um, anyway, feel free to give them both a shot and see what your opinion is. And I will finish this. So until next time, enjoy your beers and cheers.